Hi everyone, welcome back to the Hollywood Actor's Guide to Surviving the Film and TV Industry. It's Jennifer Lynn Warren, still here, still trying to help you guys here in Hollywood figure this industry out. So today I thought I would start off with a story. A few years ago, I was in New Orleans and I auditioned for a film called The Grief Tourist. Now I had read the script because luckily I had a friend who is much further in the industry than I was, who actually got a hold of the whole script, and it was still to this day, one of the best scripts I'd ever read. And I got called in for an audition for this role, it was just called Mother. And they asked if I would go into the casting and if I would tape, because they were not getting who they wanted out of Los Angeles, which was crazy. So I went in and it was a crazy scene, guys. It was pretty much a dream sequence in which the main character was pretty much fantasizing about this mother character, and then he was going to start, doing things that, you don't want your young kids hearing about on this podcast if they're listening from behind. You know what I'm talking about. And in the process of even doing that, they were supposed to reach around and tear my face off because this person has obviously some mental issues, and that was what they were fantasizing about. Well, I went all out for the audition, and that audition led me to a meeting with the director. And at that meeting, the director was like, listen, are you working on the movie? And I was like, I hope so. And he's like, well, we're going to find something for you because you're just not old enough for this role. We think it would be even scarier if this was like a much older woman, but that was amazing. So they wrote a role for me. They named her Olga, and I had to learn a little bit of Russian for her. And I was even going to be in a scene with a friend of mine, happened to be in like the same scene. So I was like so excited. And then I found out the film was canceled. They were not going to get financing. Why? Well, Bryan Cranston was attached to play the guy that was going to do originally the bad things to me. But he was going to be the lead of the role. And then he won all those Emmys for Breaking Bad. And his agents and managers decided that this film was kind of below him now at that point. So when they lost him, they lost their funding. Almost a year later, I'm actually now in Los Angeles. I'd moved to LA. And I got a call from my agent. What's up, Dawn Landrum? And she was like, hey, this film, Grief Tourist, is back on. It's been recast. And it has new producers, new funding. And the director, same director, wants to know if you're interested in playing Olga. And I was like, heck yeah. So I remember it was in September. And I'm like pretty much couch surfing. I'm so excited to be able to do this role. And I had, got my stuff together for the day. I was taking breakfast to go because I was so excited, butterflies in my stomach. I couldn't eat yet. And as I was heading out to the car to go to my wardrobe fitting, the director called me. Now, guys, this is crazy when a director calls you because they're too busy, and I knew they were shooting that day. I was just going in for costume fitting. And he says to me, I am so sorry, but these new producers have recast your role. And what I found out is the new producers had cast their girlfriend in the role that the director had written for me. Cut to a few months later, because my friend was still in this film, I actually got to go see this film at the cast and crew screening. And the actress that they had put in my part couldn't learn the Russian. She couldn't learn it. She obviously couldn't even say any lines because the role got dwindled down to pretty much a feature extra role. Like she had no lines. She was not really in the story the way she was in the script that I have. And so I felt a little bit vindicated from that. I just wanted to tell you the story because a lot of times we'll book something and every actor is like, oh, this is going to be the thing. This is going to be the thing that people are going to know me for. This is going to open the doors. I have a job, and those jobs, that door can close on you pretty fast. If you want to hear more stories like this, go ahead and go to Amazon.com and pick up my copy of the Hollywood Actor's Guide to Surviving the Film and TV Industry, because I have a lot more stories where that came from. Oh my goodness, guys. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. I didn't make that up. That's actually a quote from Buddha, but he was so right. Your mind is everything. We talked last time on the show about owning the room, right? When you walk into that room, your mind needs to be set where you think, I belong in here. I have every right to be in here. I'm a professional. I am going to own the room. And the same thing goes for when you're on set. Your mind needs to be set so that you can say to yourself, I belong on this set. I have every right to ask the director a question if it's a valid question. I have every right to be here. I have every right to discuss every aspect of my character with all the other working professionals here as long as it's valid, right? If you are having trouble with this, if you have trouble with your mind just racing and going all over the place, I'm going to suggest to you that you guys start to meditate. And I think meditation, especially mindfulness meditation, really is an acting exercise, because the best actors really know themselves, don't they? They really know who they are. They really know what's going on in their mind and going on in their feelings. And when you take 10 minutes a day and you just stop and you just sit and you breathe and you just get an awareness of what's going on inside of you emotionally, what's going on inside of you mentally, it's going to blow your mind. When's the last time you actually just stopped and looked to see what was going on? We are so often on our cell phones, which, by the way, guys, if you're really paying attention to the science, is the leading cause, they're saying right now, of depression and anxiety in our culture. That's why everyone's so depressed. It's their cell phones, because you're chasing those likes. You're just constantly making your brain do something, and your brain's not getting a chance to just stop. So take 10 minutes and just stop. You have to do this if you are working on an audition. You cannot be distracted with your cell phone. You can't be distracted with Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of stuff, or people nagging, in your ear, or wondering if the phone's going to ring. You need to turn everything off, and you need to just sit and think about the character. Or if you're not working on an audition, you just need to sit and think about yourself, and you need to see what's going on, because you're going to notice certain emotions are arising that you didn't even realize you were feeling in the moment. Or you start having these thoughts and you're like, where did that thought come from? And especially my dear actors out there that want to make their own work and you guys want to write, being bored is the number one solution for any sort of brain fog or writer's block, or just not having an idea. If you stick yourself in a room with absolutely nothing to do, no computer, no cell phone, no books to read, no one to talk to, just put yourself into solitary confinement, which sounds really scary. It sounds like a joke, but I'm kind of not kidding. I mean, don't let anyone lock you in there, right? But just put yourself in a room by yourself, take a bath, even if you're just sitting in there, you're not listening to anything, you're not talking to anyone, you're not watching Netflix, and see what happens. Because a lot of times our subconscious is trying to tell us some stuff and we're not listening because we're so distracted by everything else. But I know I just told you to turn off your cell phone and everything, but if you have a hard time with just sitting and you need someone to guide you, then there are some great meditation apps that are free on your phone. Headspace is a popular one. I think some of them you have to pay for, but most of them are free. Insight Timer is a really great free one. There's one that I just heard about that's called Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics, and it's by 10% Happier. And I'm betting that's Gretchen Rubin's 10% Happier podcast probably put that out. So I'm going to check that out later today. That's Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics. And none of these people are paying me to say any of this. I'm trying to get you guys as actors to just like calm down and become actors. You guys are just so it's like you're on the influencer track. You guys are so focused on your social media and being on your phone all the time. Like, when are you going to stop, shut up, sit down, and just be an artist? Really be an artist. So if you're home, turn me off. I don't care. Turn me off right now and just sit for 10 minutes and see what happens and just observe what happens in your mind. There's an app that I personally use. It's Sam Harris's app, and it's called Waking Up. And I love it because it's for people who are spiritual but have more of an atheist kind of view. They don't want God kind of in their thoughts when they're meditating. They just want it to be about the self. And I couldn't afford the app, but I actually emailed his company and said, hey, I really need your app, but I'm broke. Is there anything you can do for me? And they gave me a free year. So maybe give that a try with an app you love that you can't afford. Just be like, hey, I'm a broke artist, but I really need this help. I'll blast you out on social media. Is there anything you can do? And sometimes, guys, they will say yes. So get out there, take 10 minutes for yourself, meditate, do it for a week, and see what happens. Your voice is such an important instrument, and it surprises me to find how few actors I even know personally that have bothered with any sort of vocal training. I believe in the Alexander technique. That's my favorite vocal training. I've also had several others, but that's my go-to. But there's also, just some it seems obvious, but maybe not so much ways of approaching your character. And I think when you're developing a character, whether it's for stage, screen, audition, whatever, I think it's obvious, kind of and instinctive, that we'll usually get some physicalities. I think actors, even if they're not thinking about it, might change their movements a little bit. But there's a lot of hesitation for doing anything with your voice. And I'm not talking about going the animation route and completely changing everything you do. But I mean that there are people, everybody speaks from different places. There are people who speak from the gut. There are people who speak from the chest voice. There are people who speak from the head voice. There are people who speak all the time as if they're afraid they're going to die at any moment. There are people who talk with such cockiness that you just want to slap them. And one of the great ways of going about a character is to figure out where they are coming from their voice. And it's not even changing your voice. Don't even think about changing your voice, but thinking about where your character's voice is coming from. So if you're playing a woman who is abused all the time and her husband's always hitting her and she's always in fear of her life, she's gonna talk a certain way, even to people out in the real world, because she's so used to being on the defensive and being demure and always making sure she's careful about what she says. Or if you're a power salesperson and you close every deal, you might talk like that to your kids at the dinner table. So you got to know what kind of character you're playing. And we all have those tics, right? A lot of comedians, they're always looking for the joke, and they're always the way they talk is don't take me too seriously because I'm going to find the joke in here. And that's why we're so surprised when they do drama, because they'll take that away. So take that into your little back pocket as another little character creation thing. Try bringing a vocal point of view to your character. Try bringing a vocal point of view from an emotional place with your character and see what happens. So thank you so much for joining me today, guys. I really love doing these. If you love them, please go on iTunes and leave me a review. It means the world to me. I'm getting a lot of downloads, so I know you're out there and I know you're listening, but No one's giving me any iTunes review love. So if you're out there, please go on iTunes, rate and review. You can follow me at Hollywood Actors Guide on Instagram or on the Facebook. So thank you very much, guys. Break a leg out there, and remember, you are not alone.